I'd like to thank you, thank you, thank you very much. I'd like to thank you, thank you, thank you, you're the best.
Hey, fool, this ain't no football game.
Emma's a pimp!
Wait until the Reaper takes my life.
Lucky for you, you are right where you need to be. So sit back, relax, and turn up the volume on your streaming device. Johnny Ballgame, Sir Poops-a-Lot, and the Fantasy Reaper are about to deliver humor and fantasy gold at the same time. Crush your opponent with a smile. It's Fantasy Sports Island.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Island. Ladies and gentlemen, the season is finally finished in fantasy football. But you know who's playing fantasy football still? Jonathan Ballgame.
Every day of my life I play fantasy football.
Playoffs. Doesn't matter, John. We play in the playoffs.
Playoffs, preseason, USFL, whatever else you want to do. Canadian Football League, here we come.
Hopefully you got to win, get some victories out there. Johnny Ballgame got a partial victory this year due to the situation in Buffalo and that game being canceled. We did have to make co-champions with him and Tony. So congratulations to both of you.
Thanks, sir.
And John keeps his streak alive of winning money every single year.
That is pretty true. I am. All right. I like it. I like that. I like that moniker, in the money every year. So.
Hey, cha-ching, baby, cha-ching. You're not paying for fantasy football.
So you guys, are you playing for free?
The Fantasy Reaper was not able to win a single league this year. First time in a long time for me, John. I'm broke.
It really is. Fantasy Reaper got raped at the end there. He had some rough last couple of weeks.
Oh boy, yeah. It was a string of bad luck, but you know what? We're already thinking about 2023 NFL football season, are we not, Johnny?
We sure are. Already got some ideas percolating up in the old noggin.
I already know who I would take number one overall. That's how deep into 2023 I am.
Who, Chuck?
Oh, we're teasing that for later, Johnny.
Oh, I just want to see if it changes. You know what I mean? Because, I'm pretty sure I changed my first round pick about 19 times this year.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't know I was going to take Christian McCaffrey with it first overall until a couple weeks right before the draft. So, things are going to change. But as of right now,
a couple of weeks. I feel like it was a couple of days before the draft.
You might be right, Johnny. You might be right. All I knew is I wasn't going to take Jonathan Taylor.
That's true.
Yeah. And I'm not going to take Justin Jefferson with the first, because we know these guys that have these breakout seasons, the number one fantasy season, they never repeat.
Never.
All right, John, let's move on. Let's talk about some news and notes before we get into the playoff matchups for this week. Right and we're going to start with some firings. They call it, what do they call it? Black Monday in the NFL circles.
Where's your Reaper mask when we need it? My gosh, they were reapered.
Yeah, so we lost Arizona fired Cliff Kingsbury. How about that? Even though they owe him a ton of money and they had just extended him, they couldn't take him anymore. Fall off a cliff. Kingsbury is gone.
Yeah, awful. My disdain for that team over the last couple of years. I feel like they've been trying to play video game football. It didn't seem good. Speaking of video games, Kyler Murray, I mean, we put in a no video game clause basically. So obviously he's not doing his work. Just bad all the way around.
I agree. And then Houston pulls out a miraculous victory from the jaws of defeat, and they took their number one pick from the jaws of their mouths. Yeah. And Lovie Smith got probably fired. Either way, he was going to get fired, but he definitely was getting fired after blowing that game, even though they won. He went out with a bang, and they took him out. So the Bears get the number one pick now, John, because Houston wins that game and the Bears lose. So how you feeling about that?
So listen, I'm a Bears fan, as you all know. Tough times for the Bears fans. I would like to thank Coach Lovie Smith as an ex-Bears coach, I feel like he was just doing a solid for his past team so that we could get the number 1 pick. So I feel pretty good about that. Thank you, Lovey. I love Lovey. And Lovey Smith, last game as a coach probably ever, because let's face it, no one's hiring that guy as a head coach again.
No, he's done. And, so for the Bears, they don't need a quarterback. They're not going to get a quarterback at number 1. But what they do have is a massive bargaining chip now with the first pick. They could look to trade it to those 2 teams that need quarterbacks. I'm talking about the Jets and the Bears, the Jets and the Texans. They need a quarterback. So now that they have the first pick, man, leverage, baby, leverage. So it's really good for the Bears. Last bit of news on the coaching front. Sean McVay is not sure if he's coming back to coach with the Rams. He's going to decide in the next couple weeks here. Is that strange to you, John? Is there a reason why you think this is happening?
I think he's a little bit burnt out. I don't know why he doesn't. He's an every other year coach. I don't know why he doesn't expect to go to the Super Bowl next year. So, I mean, if you look at his career, it's good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, and there's never an in between. It's good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. So, might as well hang out for one more year, do your good year, and then retire going out on top, as opposed to retiring this way. The one good thing about him retiring now is he clearly wouldn't stay retired. He'd make really great TV money and then go make another giant ass contract from somebody. So I don't think it's that weird. I think you see what the Rams have and are not going to have. And so that's probably why he's thinking about it. I don't blame him.
Yeah, I agree. All right, some good news. The Bills' Damar Hamlin released from the hospital, on his way to a full recovery. Everything seems fine. It's great news. We're happy to hear it. And now the Bills can just play football and not worry about their cornerback. So good news on that front. Bad news for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is out this weekend officially. He is still saying his knee feels unstable. And he's on a contract year. So what is going to happen here, Johnny?
They're going to tag him. They got the deal done with Roquan Smith, which was a cool thing. You might have that in your notes too. But Roquan got his ass paid. And what that does is it now frees up the franchise tag to franchise tag Lamar. So Lamar's going to get franchise tagged.
Yeah, that's the most likely scenario. And he might be in line for 2 years in a row of being franchise tagged. Nevertheless, next year if he gets franchise tag, I think he makes $50 million. And if he gets franchise tag the second time, it's like in the 60s.
Yeah.
Don't worry about Lamar. He's fine.
But okay. Not sure where this meal's coming from, poor guy.
Yeah, but for playoff purposes, this big game against the Bengals, I don't even think that Hundley might not be ready. They might be going with the rookie again, Dixon.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say to this. I mean, the Bengals are my second favorite team. So I have the Bears, obviously, as my allegiance, but I grew up in Ohio. So I do love the Bengals. In fact, if the Bengals and Bears ever play the Super Bowl, I will probably die the next day because I'm pretty sure that that's all that I need in the world to ever happen. So I personally, from a Bengals side, love that Lamar's not playing. And I like that Snoop's not probably going to play. So the one thing I worry about, though, is being the Bengals overlooking them. That defense is excellent.
Yeah.
That defense is really, really good.
More bad news on the quarterback front. Tua Tagovailoa is out officially. Yeah. I don't think he's going to play again, even if they were to happen to advance. Looking like Skylar Thompson will be starting for the Dolphins because, their backup quarterback isn't going to play either.
No.
So this is really two ugly situations. You have two teams that probably don't even belong in this playoff. They're going to get ousted early.
Yep, sure are. Miami's list isn't even just the quarterback. I mean, they've got a list. I looked at their list today. It's like this long of names of people didn't practice again today. I'm like,
yeah, Mostert had a broken thumb. Yeah. All right, Derek Carr is also saying goodbye to his fans officially in Las Vegas. So we knew he was gone, but now it's kind of official. He's going to be either traded or released. So where does Derek Carr end up, Johnny?
Jets.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about this real quick. Wide receiver Mike Williams is questionable for the Chargers game against the Jaguars with a sore back. And the reason he's got a sore back is because with absolutely nothing to play for, the Chargers played their starters for 3 quarters in a meaningless game and got them hurt.
Yep.
What are we doing, John?
That coach is quickly losing the fan base, is all I've got to say. So he better do something in the playoffs. They better go deep in the playoffs, or Staley is not long for the Chargers.
And it's unfortunate, too, because they put together a nice long winning streak here, and they're hot going into the playoffs. Yeah. But you still see the rookie mistakes by a second-year coach. Like, I don't understand.
I don't either. I think Michael Williams will end up playing just because it's the playoffs and it's so important. But he's not going to be 100%, so I don't know how effective he'll be. Yeah.
And if he doesn't play, you know what wide receiver would be a good pickup?
Little fella named Josh Palmer.
Yes, sir. If the Bills and Chiefs meet in the AFC Championship, which is what a lot of people are expecting, but not us. We like the Bengals. But if the Bills and Chiefs were to meet, the game will be played in Atlanta. That has been made official. So just a little note there. All right. Let's talk about a little playoff fantasy football, Johnny. We've got a league going. And the way our contest works is we are playing it DraftKings style. So we have a salary, and each player, defense, etc., is assigned a salary. And as long as you stay under the cap, you can assemble whatever lineup you want using that money. And so it starts at 60,000 as our cap. And then after this week, we're going to drop it down to 55,000 for next week. And after that, we're going to drop it another 5,000 down to 50. Oof. And then for the Super Bowl, we're going to drop it even more. So it tightens and gets tougher and tougher to assemble a decent lineup. What do you think of this league, John?
I'm kind of excited about it. I'm excited to see how it does. I don't know if we can tighten up too much at the Super Bowl because then you're only starting 3 starters at that point. So it'll be interesting to see how it does. I'm excited about it though. I like still playing fantasy football, so I wasn't ready to be done.
Also eliminated the need to have like a formal draft or auction or however you assemble your teams. Anyone can just put together their teams with their own salaries. And from what I've noticed, from the people that have set a lineup already, we have very different teams out there. We don't have identical teams at all.
That's
so I like what I'm seeing, and it's a different approach to fantasy football. It's fun, and we're just going to total up at the end for all 4 weeks. It's fair. No one's going to lose players throughout the contest. You just play guys that are playing each week, so it'll be fun. We'll see who's the best of the best
that week, but that's as far as that's going to hurt you. So
right.
You can't get ousted. You play through the Super Bowl, and like you said, most points at the end wins.
Right. Let's do it. All right.
Fearless Fantasy Forecast.
First segment of the day, Fearless Fantasy Forecast. We're going to go through each game, talk about the matchups. We're going to talk about who we like, who we don't like. You know the deal, John. We do this almost every week. So here we go. First game is on Saturday. The Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners are 10-point favorites. The over-under is only 42. John, what do you think of this game? Who you like?
I for sure like the 49ers over the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think that's in question. I think most people would say that. From a fantasy standpoint, I really like Kittle this week. Seattle's not good against tight ends. They're not good against running backs catching passes out of the backfield. That just happens to be the 2 main receivers for the 49ers. I really like CMC. I really like Kittle this week. So for the 49ers, I'd get those guys in. Brock Purdy's even serviceable. I mean, he puts up some numbers, and I don't think Seattle's going to put up that much of a fight. So if you want to pay down at quarterback a little bit, because again, this is think daily fantasy football in a tournament style format, which is really kind of cool, and it's kind of groundbreaking a little bit. But if you want to pay down a quarterback so that you can pay up a little bit more in your wide receivers and running backs, Purdy could be useful in that case.
You know who else I was trying to get into my lineup, who I think will not only score some points, but is very cheap, and that way you can pay up at other positions? I was thinking of double up and playing Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell, because I'm with you. I think this is a blowout, and I think once they get way ahead, McCaffrey comes out, Elijah goes in and eats. So I had a lineup where I had both of them as my 2 running backs, in the same game. So Yeah, but I've changed that a few times since then, Johnny.
I
Anyone else?
I have the 49ers defense too in this.
Yeah, you got to play the Niners D. Anyone on Seattle that we like? I mean, Kenneth Walker.
KW is pretty much it for me. If you need to put a wide receiver in, obviously Metcalf is a good receiver. You could throw Lockett in there too if you're trying to fill out and they fit in your salary range. So they'll get some catches. They'll eat a little bit. I don't think I'd use Geno this week at quarterback. In fact, I know I wouldn't. In fact, he was never a consideration for me, and I have Geno on my regular season-long fantasy, and he did well. But yeah, I just don't like him this week.
Yeah, I don't like that matchup either. All right, on to the second game on Saturday. The Los Angeles Chargers at the Jaguars. This is the closest game, according to Vegas. -1.5 for the Chargers. Over-under is 47.5, which is pretty high scoring. So this should be a fun game. Who do we like, John? Who do we want? First of all, who's going to win this game?
I think the Jaguars are going to win this game. It's in Duval County. They play better at home. They're on a streak. They're hot. They remind me a little bit of the Bengals last year. Start off pretty bad, get hot at the end of the season. They're hungry. No one's expecting anything of them. I really like the Jaguars in this game.
I like the Chargers in this game. I like the way they're playing. They're playing defense. They're controlling the ball. They're getting Austin Eckler lots of touches. And, I mean, they just don't turn the ball over right now because they're not allowing Herbert to do that. When they get down to the goal line, they are running the ball. So it kind of plays itself to the type of football you need to play to win in the playoffs. So I like what I'm seeing.
The Jaguars have a good defense too, and they've been playing lights out defense. They've been running the ball. ATN is starting to pick it up a lot. They got a mobile quarterback who can run, who can pass. Their wide receiver crew, I think, is actually really underrated.
It is.
I really like what they've done this year. Christian Kirk is a bona fide number one receiver. Zay Jones is a good number two wide receiver. And then they've got the old wily veteran who's going to, catch a lot of passes too. So
Marvin Bones.
Marvin, I'm not to my bones yet. I mean, I really like them this week. I don't like the Chargers as much. There's something. It's a team that I feel like chokes a lot in the big games and the times when they should win, when they need to win. I've not seen it in years from the Chargers. So
I really want to try to get Austin Eckler in my lineup, though. So I think he is going to have a big game. I'm not big on Herbert. Yeah. I haven't been big on Herbert in a long time, and he hasn't really come to in fantasy circles. He hasn't really had a good game in a while. So I don't think that changes in this game either.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Sunday's games. Starting with the morning game, Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills. This is going to be a blowout. Even Vegas says so. 13.5 favorites for Buffalo. Over-unders 43.5. I mean, dude, does Miami have any chance to win this game, John?
I mean, listen, you've got Tyreek Hill and Waddle on your team. It's fantastic. The Bills' defense is really good, though. It's a good defense. I don't think it's as great as I think they started out being, so I don't know that you could say it's the most elite defense, but you're playing a third-string rookie who, I don't even know where he was drafted, but it wasn't high. Let's just say that. He hasn't looked great. He's played. He's been okay, but, they won because of defense pretty much the last game. So I don't think the Dolphins have any business being in this game, let alone winning this game. So
when you score 2 field goals in regulation in a game where you have Jalen Waddle on one side and Tyreek Hill on the other.
Yeah.
That's a quarterback problem. Yeah. And they have a major quarterback problem. And Bridgewater's an effective backup, but he's not looking like he's going to play. So that it really hinders them pretty well. Buffalo can pin their ears back, and they are a turnover monster when they need to be.
Right.
I'm just feeling a blowout. I think Josh Allen goes off. I have Josh Allen in my lineup. I think he's my number one quarterback this week because Miami can be thrown on and they can be run on. So I kind of like a little James Cook, a little Singletary, fair values. So
I'm not going to lie. I've got James Cook in my lineup.
Yeah, I like that. I think he might pop a touchdown this week, Johnny.
That's kind of how I feel too.
All right. So we basically don't want any Dolphins in this game, and we want all the Bills we can get.
Yes.
Including their defense.
Yes.
Giants at the Vikings is the afternoon game on Sunday. The Vikings are favored by 3 right now, which I kind of kind of surprised that it's 3. I thought it would be like either a pick 'em or really close, like a 1 point. Right?
Yeah.
They played a couple weeks ago, and remember it went down to the like final play of the game.
Field goal at the end.
Yeah. Over under is 48, the highest scoring slate of the week. What do we think, though, John? Who's going off in this game?
So here's the thing. The Vikings have not put 2 bad games in a row, I don't think, this year. And they had a shit game last week. Horrible. It was one of the worst games I've seen in a long time. I like the Vikings a lot. I think they're going to blow out the Giants, actually. I like Jefferson. I like Cook. I even like Alexander Madison. I'd get that guy on my lineup if I could. I don't like Thielen. I do like Hawkinson. I'd play him. I don't think the Giants defense is that great. I don't think they can stay with the Vikings.
I do think there's going to be some scoring in this game. I'm with you on that. So I like Cousins, I like Jefferson.
I like the over too, by the way.
And maybe some Osborne. I tell you what, I think the Giants are going to surprise a lot of people. They're tough. I don't know what it is about the Giants, but they find a way to stay in games. And the Vikings have been so lucky. They've won they're like 10-1 in one-score games or something ridiculous like that. And I feel like that luck is about to come to an end. I think like the Giants could pop them in a close game. It's just a gut feeling. But I think Saquon's going to go off.
Right.
I really do. I don't think the Vikings can stop the run at all, and I think they're going to get a whole lot of Saquon in this game.
I think Daniel Jones is going to get a lot of points on the ground. I don't think he's going to get done throwing, but I do think he'll get some scramble yards and some actual intentional runs in this. By the way, just as a side, if I were the Giants, I'd sign Daniel Jones. There's not a bunch of greater options out there, especially not where they're going to end up drafting. Daniel Jones has shown me he's improved every year. He's a tough kid. He can throw. He can win games. He can put the team on his back when he needs to. I would re-sign Daniel Jones. I'm not playing him in fantasy this week, but I would sign Daniel Jones if I were the Giants.
I have an idea. How about surround him with some freaking offensive weapons that can catch? Yeah. Let's get him some receivers. Right?
I mean, in their defense, they went out and got a shit ton of receivers. They just all got injured and didn't pan out. So it's not like they didn't try to get him receivers. They went out and got receivers. They just all suck.
They all suck. And when your number one receiver at the moment is Rick James, bitch, then you're in trouble. I'm Rich James.
I'm not even sure I don't have him in. Actually, I might have him in one of my lineups.
Yeah. I mean, they did have a couple good receivers that got injured, but I mean, Kenny Galladay, and I mean, it's just Go, Johnny.
There's a little Madonna for you. You're welcome.
That's it? That's all we get? Just a tease?
You only get one. Come on.
All right.
Come on.
All right. The Sunday evening game. This is your game, Johnny. I'm going to let you talk about it. It's the Ravens at the Bengals. Bengals favored by 9.5. Over-unders are the lowest of the slates, 40.5. Go ahead, Johnny.
I don't like one Raven. I don't like J.K. Dobbins. I don't like anybody in the run game. The Bengals have a surprisingly good run defense. They shut them down last week. The Bengals are going to win this game and win this game huge. Get Joe Burrow in your lineup. I'm not a fan of Mixon this week. I will say that. I might take a shot at Pirine because he'll catch some balls out of the backfield if I need to fill out like a lower running back or a piece of my or flex kind of position. Every receiver is, of course, not only usable, but fantastic. T. Higgins was sick earlier in the week, but he was a full participant in practice today. I love Jamar. I love Jamar this week.
So do I.
I love Jamar.
Yeah.
I would even say if you're trying to round out a fantasy thing and you got to go with Tyler Boyd, you could do worse. I like Tyler Boyd. Again, I don't like any Ravens.
Yeah, the only one I could think of that I might want to squeeze into my lineup is Isaiah Likely because he's really coming on and he's cheap. You know, you can play him for under $3,000 on DraftKings or in our league, whatever you want.
Just catches just enough to piss you off and just enough to take it away from Likely. So
yeah,
I'm not likely to put Likely in my.
I see what you did there, Johnny. Stop it, Johnny. On the Bengals side, I do like all the offensive skill players, of course. But I do, but I think they're going to get such a big lead that they're just going to shut it down early, kind of like what happened last week. But Joe Mixon, just so you know, caught 5 balls last week, so don't discount his catching ability out of the backfield.
That's a good point.
All right.
I'm starting Burrow. It's probably a hard thing to believe.
Do it, Johnny. Stick with your man. All right, Monday Night Football in the playoffs. Dallas Cowboys at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The over-under is 45.5. John, who do you think's favored?
I'm probably going to be an anomaly in this world, but I don't give a shit about this game. I know that makes me a terrible person, but for fantasy purposes, I'll talk about it, but I could care less about this game. I don't care, Tom Brady. I don't care if it's your last game. I don't care if it's your last playoffs or if you're going to go play somewhere else. I just simply don't care anymore. And Dallas, why don't you stop playing to your competition? If it's a shitty team, you play shitty. If it's a good team, you play good. I don't know what to do with you anymore. If it's me, Buccaneers defense has come on toward the end of the year, which to me means Dallas is probably going to play better. So I'd get Dak in, I'd get CD in. I'd get both running backs. You could probably use both of those guys at some point, depending on how much salary you've got going on. I like Schultz on that side. I'm not big on any of the Patriots. Buccaneers. Patriots. I'm not big on any of the Buccaneers.
I kind of agree with you. I think this is going to be an ugly game. I'm not sure who's going to win, because I never want to totally count out Tom Brady.
And
Cowboys
you also don't care that much, do you?
I don't. I already reapered his ass, so I'm ready for him to go away. Yeah. But the Cowboys are favored by 2.5 by Vegas, and I found that kind of interesting because the game is in Tampa.
Yeah.
I heard it's going to be a weather game. There's going to be a little bit of rain, so could muck up the game a little bit. And in those situations, I trust Brady more than I trust Dak. I do not trust Dak. I said it last week, and Dak had a horrendous game, John, in a game they were trying to win. He scored 0 fantasy points, Johnny. 0.
Okay, but I will say this. Dak's another one of those guys, after sucking really bad, comes out the next week and actually plays really well. So, but if it does rain, like you just said, I like now touchdown Lenny a little bit more because he will get check downs and he'll catch the ball out of the backfield. So I will say if it rains, then I might consider throwing Fournette in there.
I like Godwin a lot too, especially in the type of league we're playing in, where you just want to get your 15 points. You can take it to the bank. He's catching 7 or 8 balls for at least 50 yards. So I like that play.
So he's going to actually change his name to God Lose this weekend.
So who's winning this game, John? Give me your gut. Who's winning? I'm sorry?
Dallas.
Okay. I'm gonna go Tampa. I think Tampa's gonna win. I just don't trust Dallas, but I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Yeah.
All right.
Season in review.
So now we're gonna do a little reflection on what was the 2022 fantasy football season, and one of the things I like to do is to go back and look at the top 10 players in fantasy points per game at each position. And it's a good exercise because sometimes you don't realize that certain guys did better than you thought by looking at this. So during the season, you're always checking the top performers and you see who's in the top 10. But these things seem to change quite a bit at the end. And we forget to check because the year's over. We don't care anymore, right? You know? So, but if you review it, it can give you hints into what's going to happen next year. Let's look at the top 10 for each position and talk about the guys that surprised us, did exactly what they thought they were going to do, disappointed us, whatever. Let's just talk about it. Let's review this, all right? Top 10 quarterbacks, all right?
Love it.
Start at number 10 and we'll work our way up. Number 10, Kirk Cousins ended up as a top 10 quarterback. Does that surprise you, John?
No. Because if you remember right, at the beginning of the year, I actually said Kirk Cousins was going to be a top 10 quarterback. So no, it doesn't surprise me. I kind of thought he was going to do better. I actually thought he might be a top 5.
Yeah, we ranked him in the top 10 as well as a group, and he finished pretty much exactly where we thought he would. So it was pretty solid, nothing spectacular, but nothing bad either. Top
Right.
10 will work. Kyler Murray. Now remember, this is per game. Okay? Because Kyler Murray missed some games with injury, but he finished 9th. A little lower than most people would project. Pretty much exactly where we thought he'd finish, though, John. And, of course, he disappointed you again, right?
He didn't disappoint me. He outperformed where I thought he would. I did not have him in my top 10. So the fact that he got 9th, congratulations. You did better than I thought you were going to do.
Here's the guy that, despite what happened down the stretch, he was impressive. And he finished top 10, and that's Tua Tagovailoa. He finished at 8. Tua was much, much better than most people thought he would be. We were saying, look out for Tua. He could be a top 10 quarterback because of those weapons, and he was. So I'm slightly surprised, though, because he was a little better than even I thought.
Me too. Yeah, we thought he'd be a top 10 quarterback. I knew he was going to improve. I liked the coaching staff that was coming in. I was really impressed with Tua for most of the season. Slipped a little bit towards the end. Of course, honestly, I don't know that he's ever going to play again with these concussions with what's happened to him in his head.
That's a possibility.
That is a worry for me. So,
okay. Number 7. This is why we check. Because Tom Brady finished 7th. Everything all right, John?
it's Tom. It's Tom Brady.
Yeah. So this is why we check, because we thought in our brains Tom Brady had a terrible season. And for the most part he did. But at the end he got hot and he had 3 or 4 good games in a row and he finished 7th at the quarterback position. So pretty good.
Do you know what Tom Brady did this year? He broke the NFL record for completions in a season.
And you know whose record he broke?
His own.
His own from last year.
From last year, yeah. So this old-ass quarterback, who we all just are so tired of and are sure he's just going to be the worst thing ever, ends up 7th in points per game and the completions record. Congratulations, Tom. I'm just going to say it now. Congratulations. You, sir, are the GOAT. That's it.
I am going to say, though, this is the most underwhelming 7th overall quarterback finish I've ever seen in my life.
For sure. And the reason he had so many completions is because he checks it down 90% of the time now. So he throws
and they got behind so many games and they just threw.
They don't run.
Yeah, they stat pad for Tommy. Yeah. Number 6, big disappointment for me because I expected better. Justin Herbert. I expected him to finish a top 3 quarterback like he did last season. He did not. He became a game manager in the second half there at the season in a stretch of games where he had the number 1 easiest schedule in fantasy football, and he let me down. So I'm a little disappointed, Johnny.
It was too. I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised he's in the top 10 with the kind of season that he had. So, it kind of just goes to show you. I thought it was a down year for all the quarterbacks. Quite frankly, I didn't think anybody.
It was
super go off year. But yeah, he was very disappointing. Very disappointing.
Number 5 was the surprise of the season at quarterback, Geno Smith. Geno Smith, the guy that was supposed to be second string quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. Do you remember who was supposed to start for the Seahawks? Do you remember?
Lock.
Yeah, Lock
to win that job.
Right, and Geno Smith out of nowhere finishes in top 5 in fantasy football. Congratulations, Geno. That was a tremendous season. And if you nobody drafted him. Let's be real. No. You pick him up off the waiver wire and you got a top 5 quarterback. That is fantastic, Johnny. Number 4, a little bit of a disappointment for me because I expected a little bit better. Josh Allen. I thought he'd probably be the number 1 quarterback. He was not. He was 4th, which is not bad. He was pretty good, but things seemed to take a big turn once he injured his throwing elbow. Remember that? After that, he was not the same, Josh Allen.
A lot of turnovers. Like he kills turnovers. So his average per game might have been up, 6-7 points if he hadn't thrown so many damn interceptions every game.
Yeah, if he would have gotten some touchdowns instead of picks at the goal line. Sure.
Yeah.
All right, number 3.
Top 3 quarterback going into next year, though.
Absolutely. Josh Allen's, Jalen Hurts was, in our league, he finished number 3, per game.
Surprise of the season.
Yeah, I was very surprised. He was much more accurate than I thought he could be. And
Yeah.
A.J. Brown did well because of that.
And I will say this. He looked like a quarterback this year. Last year, he looked like a running back playing quarterback.
Right.
And this year, he looked like a quarterback. And I know he got injured. I didn't think that was his fault. He wasn't running some crazy play or whatever. Jalen Hurts showed me a lot of something. And it wasn't just like throw super high balls and let AJ go up and get them. I mean, he looked really good as a quarterback. I was really impressed with him this year.
I agree with that. Number 2, Joe Burrow. You predicted he'd be the number 1 quarterback, and you almost nailed it, John.
Been a lot closer if he hadn't. Look at it. 4-point average per game. If he played the actual Buffalo game, we don't know where that would be. So
exactly, he did take a hit because, well, that wasn't incorporated into a score though, Johnny, because they canceled that game. So that's why we're going points per game. But still, Joe Burrow, wherever you drafted him, you got a value because he was better than most people expected. He was exactly as good as John predicted, though.
He was.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
Number 1 quarterback,
Patrick
Mahomes.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes surprised me because I thought the loss of Tyreek Hill was going to hamper him a little bit. And to be honest, he was exactly the same. He was the same dude. He spreads the ball out. He loves Kelsey. But other than that, all the receivers eat, from game to game. And he's just a good quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was a little surprised. What I like it when people part and both do well anyway, right? Like, so Tyreek Hill went on, and Tyreek, you found out it wasn't just because Patrick Mahomes was a great quarterback. Tyreek Hill's a great receiver, but you also found out that Patrick Mahomes wasn't just a great quarterback because he had Tyreek. He could go and he can throw it to anybody. I thought they were going to lean a little bit more on the run like they did in the middle to late of last season where they started to run a lot more. That was not the case. Patrick Mahomes looked like Patty Mahomes, and he was fantastic this year. Easily.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about some guys maybe outside the top 10 that surprised you, disappointed you. Give me someone you want to talk about.
I think a surprise in a positive way, Trevor Lawrence at number 11. That was really surprising to me. I didn't even have him in my top 20, I don't think.
Trevor Lawrence was a lot better than I thought as well. Last year, he was awful. And this year, he was a quarterback 1. Let's be real. So, yeah.
He got out of the urban legend and got into being a legend as we all thought he would be when he was drafted. So, no, impressive this year.
Yep. Let's go down the list, John. Let's talk about Dak Prescott. Disappointing season, finished 15th. We expect more from him.
I do expect more from him. You know me, I like the Dak in previous seasons. Thought he would be better this year. He wasn't. I mean, he got injured, so there's that. I don't know. Wasn't that great before the injury? Wasn't that great after the injury? He was just
he was very
mediocre.
boring.
Yeah.
How about Jared Goff finishing 14th overall on quarterbacks, right behind Daniel Jones?
If he played better on the road, that guy would be starting quarterback every week. I mean, they played fantastic at home. So I thought Jared Goff proved himself as a quarterback. I don't think the Lions are going to go out and try to get a quarterback, maybe a developmental one or one that they can work on. But I think Goff is their quarterback.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some wide receivers now, John. Okay.
Can I honorable mention of who I actually thought was one of the most disappointing quarterbacks this year? Because I kind of thought a new playing field would help him was Matt Ryan. I thought there's weapons. There's wide receivers. He ends up at quarterback 18, and honestly, I think that's generous. So I thought he was terrible in general. But yeah, it was that's bad.
He's bad, and so was Carson Wentz. He was bad.
Yeah.
All right, wide receivers. Start at the bottom, number 10. I'm on St. Brown, snuck into the top 10 this year, which sounds good, and it is. I appreciate how good St. Brown is, but St. Brown wasn't as good as he was down the stretch last year at all. Like he was pretty good, but not that league winner like he was last year, which I was kind of hoping for. But I'll take it. Top 10 wide receiver. I took him in like the 4th round. That's pretty good value. Actually, the 5th round, pretty good value.
That's good value. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just disappears too many games. It's unfortunate. because he has some really fantastic games, and then he just disappears.
The Lions have too many weapons now, so they're not relying on him as much. They spread the ball out, and it cost him a lot of touchdowns and a lot of big games where he had those 10 catches, 100 yards. He never, after week 3 or 4, he never had those.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, number 9. This is surprising, but he's there. DeAndre Hopkins finished top 10. I mean, this man is tremendous. Even with that poor quarterback play, he still was a top 10 wide receiver. And I don't know if you know this, John, but they're going to trade DeAndre Hopkins. His days in Arizona are finished. What do we think about that?
He's going to be at his third team.
Third team.
A guy who is so talented and such a great wide receiver is going to be now on his third team.
I have a prediction where he's going to end up too, John.
He's telling the Chicago Bears.
That would be nice. I like that. But I think he's going to end up on the Buffalo Bills.
Son of a... Yeah, because the Bills need another player.
They
Good
do.
idea.
Because I'll tell you what, Josh Davis is not guy that... Gabe Davis is not the guy that we thought he was. And they don't have a number 2 wide receiver to complement Diggs. And that would be...
wide receiver 3s.
Yeah, exactly. Hopkins would be a great fit there. Great fit.
Or, and I'm just spitballing here, the number 1 receiver for the Bears.
That'd be nice. That would help Justin Fields a lot.
And Hopkins.
That'd be fun. All right, number 8. This one surprised me. I predicted he wouldn't finish top 10. I was wrong. I'm apologizing formally to A.J. Brown. And the reason why is because Jalen Hurts was way more accurate than we thought he was going to be.
Yeah. Brown's a really good wide receiver.
He is.
He was the thing that was making Tannehill look pretty good because without him, Tannehill looked like Tannehill looked when he was with the Dolphins. So A.J. Brown makes quarterbacks look better, and he made Hurts look like a world beater this year, and he made Tannehill look like a world beater for a couple of years there. A.J. Brown's legit.
You know who else had a slow start and people were kind of complaining? And then he ended up finishing 7th overall. CeeDee Lamb. He had a good year.
Yeah.
A quietly good year.
Yeah, he really did. Like you said.
Especially in that run-heavy offense that they run in Dallas. For him to finish 7th overall is pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, and it's not like he had some amazing go-off games that skewed this. He was just consistent for most of the year. I was impressed with CD in a year where Dak was average and boring at best. CD actually found a way to get points every week.
Yep. So congratulations, CeeDee Lamb. It's someone I would actually consider drafting next year.
I'd think about it.
Number 6, Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, I would have thought he would have been top 3 or 4.
Me too.
But he finished 6th in points per game. A little bit disappointing. Didn't have those monster games like he had last year.
But it is. But then you look at the people who are ahead of him and you go, all of them we would say were disappointing at 6th, right? Like it's a great group at the top 6. And I think they're only separated by 1 and 2 points per game or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah. So he was really good.
Yeah, he was right behind Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. And total points, I think
he's about 90 points behind.
Yeah.
But he missed some games. He was injured. So.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So that's right.
Yeah, he was right there, right behind Stephon Diggs. Let's talk about Diggs at 5. He finished right about where I expected him to finish. Yeah. Not like he was a top 5 receiver. I actually thought he would finish outside the top 5, but he slips in at the 5th position. He's just really good. He's consistent, John.
I agree. He was one of those guys that I complained was an every other year guy for a while, but I think the last 3 years he's been consistently good. I'm really impressed with Stephon Diggs. Liked him a lot this year, actually.
You know, a guy that I wasn't looking forward to. You know, I said that Devontae would be just as good with Carr as he was with Rodgers because they played college together and they'd have a good connection. and ultimately they did. Devontae Adams finishes 4th, but for some reason, I wasn't looking at him in the drafts. I was just not interested.
Yeah, and I mean, and he kind of showed you why. I mean, he finished 3rd in overall points for the season. So
Yeah.
Would have probably been 4th if Cooper Kupp would have stayed healthy, but I was actually surprised when I looked at this in the top 10 and went, Adams was that high up, because the Raiders were just that bad that I didn't think. He had a couple of games though that were like bonkers crazy good. And I think this helps when you talk about averages. So he wasn't consistent, but he was great in stretches. So
number 3 is pretty much my MVP, the guy I stole in drafts, Tyreek Hill. He was better than I thought he'd be. I thought he'd be good, and I thought Tua could really elevate his game thanks to Tyreek Hill's speed, and they did that. They did that in spades, John. Tyreek Hill was a monster. When Tua played, Tyreek Hill was the best receiver in football.
Completely agree. He was fantastic. He was finding ways to do it differently too. So, like I said earlier, I like it when people part, when stars are together, they make each other stars, they part, and they're still great. Tyreek Hill was great this year. He was fun to watch, really fun. Like, that guy is just so damn fast. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. He is truly like the fastest guy I've ever seen on a football field. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Number 2. This is interesting because everyone's going to assume that Justin Jefferson finished number 1, but he did not if you go points per game. He was the 2nd best receiver in football. Okay? But Johnny, you nailed Justin Jefferson.
My 0.24 or 0.25.
Right. Yeah. But he played the full season. The number 1 guy did not. So let's preface it with that. In my book, Justin Jefferson was by far the best receiver in football this year.
Yep.
Which is why I won't take him next year.
Me neither. Me neither. No,
you got him the right year there, Johnny. Yeah. But okay, so what do we expect from Justin Jefferson next year? Like, where are you taking him, and where does he finish?
He's still going to be a top 5 receiver. He's an unbelievably great receiver. Mm-hmm. He's just not gonna. I mean, Kupp looked fantastic coming back after his unbelievable season until he got injured. It just seems like that's what always happens. But I think he'll end up in the top 5. I would take him 3rd, 4th round, probably still, if he came to me in those areas.
Justin Jefferson in the 3rd or 4th round? You take him there? Really? John, he's going in the 1st round. I'm just saying.
I know.
I'm not taking him with my first first.
Taking him the first pick. Yeah. So
who would you take as your first overall wide receiver?
Oh,
I know who I'd take.
So I think people will probably say Hill, but I really don't know about the quarterback position. So I'm a little bit worried about that. Kupp, I'm the same way. I don't know about how he's going to come back and who his quarterback's even going to be, or who the coach is even going to be. Honestly, I might take Jamar Chase as my number 1 wide receiver next year.
Would too. That is my number 1 wide receiver off the board right now, because I think the 3rd year is the breakout year, and this was Justin Jefferson's 3rd year. I think next year is Jamar Chase, big season. I want him first overall at the wide receiver position.
I like it. I like where you're going.
And the number 1 points per game at wide receiver was Cooper Kupp. And we forget because he got hurt so earlier in the season. But for a while there, he was almost repeating what he did the year before until he got injured. He was a monster.
Correct. I was actually really impressed. Like, what a great year that guy. I thought, oh my God, I was wrong. I was wrong on this guy. So in 9 games, he had 6 touchdowns. He had 75 receptions. That's a season for many receivers. 75 touchdowns, 812 yards.
If he doubles that, he gets to 150 catches and breaks his own record.
150 catches, a 1,600-yard season. Pretty good. I'll take that. And like you said, he got injured in his 9th game. So it wasn't even I don't even think it was a full game on that 9th game.
So where are you looking to draft Cooper Kupp next year? Like, you see your 3rd receiver off the board, 2nd?
He is wait and see for me. Like, I need to see what's going to happen with the coaching staff. I need to see what's happening. Are there offensive coaches going to get plucked again. I need to see that before. Talent alone, I think he's going to come back gangbusters and he's going to be really good. I don't know who's throwing him the ball, and I don't know what coach is coaching him, so it's hard for me to say yet.
All right, some guys that finished just outside the top 10. I was surprised. Keenan Allen finished 11th. That guy does it every year, John, when he's healthy.
He does. He does it every year. And by the way, he was only was it like a point out of being in the top 10? Not even that, like 0.2 out of
0.2 of a point per game less, yeah. And then Jalen Waddle was right there with him, which is surprising because you thought with Tyreek Hill eating so much that Waddle would take a back seat. But really, when Waddle was healthy, he was almost a top 10 wide receiver as well.
He was a top 10 for much of the season.
He was, yeah.
We did kind of call that. Like, if you go back and watch the show where we ranked our top 10 receivers, we had Waddle and Hill in there.
We had them in the top 12, both of them. We had 2 wide receiver ones on the same team, and we nailed it.
Yep, sure did. Mike Evans being outside of the top 10.
I cannot believe he finished 13th, John. He was god-awful for a long stretch of the season. He had that big game in the championship game.
He had one big game, but I mean, he still had 77 catches and 1,100 yards. It's not like
it's like clockwork.
It's like clockwork. He's Christmas every year. That guy's going to get you over 1,000 yards. He's going to get you over 70 receptions, and you're going to enjoy it.
You know who always finishes as a wide receiver too and never gets drafted as such? Hot Lockett. Tyler Lockett, 16th overall. Yet again, the most undervalued wide receiver in fantasy football.
I'd like to talk about somebody. On an average per game, Michael Thomas was 14th.
Yeah, he had a good start to the season before his toe broke.
What a shame, man. That guy can't stay healthy. Just cannot stay healthy.
No, he cannot. And he has not had a healthy season since he had the record-setting season fantasy football. And now Cooper Kupp gets hurt after he sets the record. Like, you got to be careful with these guys that have these monster seasons, man. The next years usually are not kind to them.
Yeah, because they're so exhausted, they don't work as hard in the offseason because they're trying to rest their bodies, which makes them more prone to injury the following year. So I would definitely be careful with that. Amari Cooper at 17 is a surprise to me that he finished in the top 20.
He's quiet.
Quiet guy. T. Higgins at 19. I kind of thought he was going to do better than that. I was a little surprised at how low he was.
Too. He was banged up a little bit for most of the year, though.
But with Jamar being out for 3 or 4 weeks, I thought T would really take off, and he didn't really. Like, he didn't take over. He took over one of those 4 games. The rest of them, he was just kind of average in there. So I was a little disappointed for T.
Couple guys that really disappointed me: Deebo Samuel and Michael Pittman. Pittman 24th, Deebo 25th. Pittman was a product of the bad quarterback play there in Indianapolis, but Deebo he just wasn't the same guy as last year, even before he got hurt.
Judy at 23, if you were looking at the last 6 weeks, maybe, Judy'd probably be in your top 10, or at least you know what I mean? Like,
I was going to talk about Judy. That's a guy you're going to look at next year.
For sure. Yeah, he started clicking with what's-his-face. Cortland Sutton went out. He was injured, so he didn't have him to deal with for a couple of those weeks. Mm-hmm. But he really looked like he got it at the end of the year. So I was impressed. I was impressed with Judy.
All right. I wanted to back up because we didn't really talk about Justin Fields at quarterback. He didn't finish in the top 12, but he really had some good games. And if you could surround him with some weapons, I think that's a sneaky guy you can get as your second quarterback next year and can really pay off. He could be your Lamar Jackson type pickup or your Jalen Hurts type pickup this year, next year.
I hope he learns. I hope he remembers how he threw in college, because right now he's not a good quarterback. He's a great running back who's playing quarterback. His throws are not timed well. He's not throwing with anticipation. He's not seeing the field. He's tucking and running way early. Now, he's a fantastic runner. He's a really gifted runner. Mm-hmm. But I really hope they give him a couple receivers and they make him pass all summer. They make him throw every time he drops back. Nope, you're not allowed to run. No running.
Well, you still want him to run, though, because he's such a ridiculous weapon.
During the season. I just don't want him to run during practice. And
practice that arm. Exactly. All right, so if you had to, if a gun was to your head right now, who are you taking with the number 1 quarterback pick off the board? Who is it going to be?
Burrow.
You're going Burrow again, back to back.
I do. He's just that good, and he's just got that many. And I believe all of his weapons will probably be back next year, except for maybe Boyd. And they'll probably work out a deal for him. So I would say Burrow. Burrow's my guy.
I'm with you. Even though I'd still look at Mahomes because I don't want to doubt Mahomes. It'd be one of those two guys, Mahomes or Burrow, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm.
Allen, by the way, Allen's still up there. So
of course, but I would put Burrow a step ahead of him and Mahomes a step ahead of him as well.
Yep, I'm with you.
All right. Tune in next week because next week we'll review the season at running back and tight end, and we'll go over those top 10 guys and talk about it. But we're simply out of time this week, John. We want to keep it short and sweet, and we've done that. The games start Saturday morning all the way through Monday night. It's going to be a great weekend of super duper wild card weekend fun. So we hope you enjoy that. John, what should they do though if they want to see these videos more often?
Like it,
and
bell it,
and subscribe it. Because we do this almost every week. Put some questions down there. Come up with some new ideas for some segments. We'd love to hear it. What do you want us to talk about? We'll talk about it.
You guide us.
And we just want to let you know that Tony Sir Poops a Lot will be back soon. He's just busy with life, and we get it. But just take your time, brother. We'll be back soon enough. And hopefully one of these days Royce will make another appearance. We haven't forgot about Keith either. Keith, we're going to get you back on there as well. And we got all kinds of fun stuff in the off season. We're going to finish up this fantasy playoffs, though. Each week we'll be here discussing who's going to go off and do their thing in the fantasy playoffs. And hopefully one of us two here, John, me or you, can be champion of our fantasy playoff league. Huh? What do you think?
I love it.
Bring home a little extra cash.
So we're both in the money, and then again we go another season where we're in the money again. Almost getting boring to win this much, you know what I mean?
Exactly, John. Yeah. All right, I want to thank Johnny freaking Ballgame.
Gracias, Reaper, Senor Reaper.
De nada, homie. I am the Fantasy Reaper. We thank you so much for watching Fantasy Sports Island. You guys are the best. You're the reason why we do this. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.